Well, welcome everyone. We are so glad you guys are here today, joining us again for another Talk It Over. Of course, we've got this on YouTube as well as a podcast, so you guys can get that wherever you guys find those things. But yeah, head over to our YouTube channel, LifeNorth.Church. All of our messages are, of course, there, as well as our Talk It Over. And you can catch up on some past stuff and stay up to date with everything new as you subscribe and get notified that stuff is there. So, welcome, Dave.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Glad to have you back again.
Yeah, I get to sub in every once in a while. And the ladies I know have been in, and it's been great. I love to hear the different voices. And I think you do a great job. I appreciate the work that you do in kind of facilitating this. It's going really well. And I love to hear the different perspectives and how I can take what I've learned from hearing a message to a whole other level.
Exactly, yes. Yeah, certainly. Well, I appreciate that, Dave. I certainly, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a good series. And today we've got a one-off from Steven Furtick of LifeNorth.Church. And excellent message. But of course, before we get into that,
want to catch up a little bit?
Yeah, going to catch up a little bit.
How's it going and all that? Actually, when we're recording this is like Super Bowl Sunday.
It is.
Today's the day. And as we do with Super Bowl, we tend to eat a little more and enjoy a little bit. And I'm already full and we're only halfway through the day. It's not a good sign. No. I got to do something to work that off. And I'm not normally a chili guy, but we did some chili this afternoon, and it was good. Yeah. I kind of enjoyed that. So it's been a good weekend. I love that. I love during all the lockdowns and restrictions, there's been less and less social interaction. And as that is more allowable and we can do more of that, I love it.
Yeah.
So I'm an introvert. I find the interactive stuff a little bit draining, but I like to be with people. I love spending that time together. I look forward to it. And so this is a great weekend, and I've been looking forward to our celebrations today. And so it's been good.
Yeah, it's been really good. Getting into chili today, that was really, really good. Looking forward, of course, to this evening as we dive a little further into the more, food party over maybe watching the Super Bowl. I know the Super Bowl is fun, and of course we'll have it on. But yeah, it's really about the food for sure. It's really about the food. That is for sure for me. So yeah, it's been good. Really excited about today. Again, had a great weekend. Things have been going really well. Nothing too crazy, of course, which is always nice. You have those slower moments where things are just a bit more relaxed, which of course is
get caught up on some chores, maybe.
Getting some things caught up around the house, slow and steady. My wife decided to overload some shelves and pulled some out of the walls, so that's on the to-do list to fix now. So now I've got to go. I was notified of that this morning, so now I
have some work to do.
Have some more things added to the list to address. But yeah, other than that, it's nice to have those slow times because of course we all have seasons where things can be really busy, really straining. But those are always very, very nice to have.
Good.
Yes. So let us know in the chat, guys. How have things been for you guys? Anything new? Anything exciting? Please let us know. And we will get back to you with these in the comment section as soon as we can. Yeah,
catch us up, especially if they're only online.
Yes.
If we're only interacting, we don't know always what's going on with you, and we would like to know. And so catch us up on stuff that's been going on for you. Especially I want to know if you celebrated Super Bowl weekend with chili or something. Let us know what that was. I'm kind of curious.
Ooh, maybe your favorite Super Bowl food.
Yeah, that would be good.
Maybe a favorite that you have each year.
Yeah.
That's always good. That's always good. Always good. Well, of course, yes, we're going to dive into this message today from Steven Furtick. The message title today is I Am Not a Hostage, which sometimes we may think we're not a hostage, but we actually maybe are a hostage in different ways in our lives, in areas that maybe we're being held back or held down by something. Very powerful message. Definitely get over and watch that.
I love hearing from Steven Furtick. I think the guy brings a powerful perspective. And I like it because Life Church, they partner with him because we're on the same mission.
Yes.
And it doesn't always have to be Life Church or their pastors. They'll bring other guys in who this is the same course that we're on. We're on the same mission. Let's hear from other voices, kind of you rotating through. And Steven Furtick, I really appreciate. So I really enjoyed this message.
Yeah, it was excellent. And just kind of keeping us going with this idea of not being a hostage.
Yep.
A couple things that Steven really kind of touched on. is that we need to focus on what God is doing through you more than what is happening to you. And again, that is a bit more, again, a more perspective of maybe a situation or something you're in, and changing that perspective and turning it into something more what God has or is doing in you over complaining about what's going wrong or what's happening. And he really, Stephen really focused today's message on Philippians 1, talking about Paul and being chained to a guard in jail, is where this message really finds itself. And so, yeah, it's
well, and he's writing the book of Philippians while he's in prison.
Exactly.
And Philippians is filled with like joy and positiveness, and you're like, wait, the guy's in chains. Like, how is he doing that?
Yep.
So it just really is about perspective, not about your circumstances.
Yep.
It's big.
Because that book could have been completely the opposite, where he's like, look at what they did to me. I shouldn't be here. This isn't right. God, break me out of jail.
Break me out of this jail, yeah.
Like, there's a lot of different perspectives that could have shifted from being very negative to Paul taking it in a very positive, godly direction, which I thought was good. So I like the one thing that Stephen talked about the one story about the lady praising God through everything. I thought that was really interesting, how that perspective of God brought me this, God did this for me, in everything that she did, I thought was really funny. But really drives that perspective home about what God can really do, and having that God perspective. And he talked about, if God brought you here, act like God brought you here, in that sense of praising him and thanking him for all he's done, was, of course, excellent. And again, Paul being chained to a guard. Now, you could look at it as, I'm chained to this guard, or in Paul's case, that guard is chained to me. He's going to listen to the gospel, what I'm going to talk about. I got him for 8 hours. He's going to hear it all. And that perspective, I think, is really the main piece. It's just that you're stuck with me. I'm not stuck to you. And
well, you guys, we've talked about this before. It's I get to versus I have to.
Yes.
You actually have the privilege to do something rather than, I'm getting stuck here, I have no choice. And the circumstance can be the exact same, but if you flip your perspective, wow, the attitude changes, and you can bring positivity, but you can bring impact. And that's what Paul's talking about. Like, no, I'm not stuck here. I'm bringing impact here, and look what God's going to do, and does.
Yeah, exactly. And again, he really kind of described some of the things that can hold us hostage and keep us there. And so what we have to do is we have to stop worrying about what doesn't really matter. Things that don't matter, things we can't change, it's not worth worrying about. And we need to stop focusing on the stupid stuff, thinking about that, things that really, again, aren't really relative to what we're doing or where we're headed. We need to let that stuff go, because again, that could really hold us hostage and keeping us from really what we can really do. And we need to remember that even, we've been talking about I've pre-decided and this, and I like how Stephen brought this one today, is that I'm not a hostage to your feelings, your situation, even your expectations. You're not a hostage to those. It's about taking that step and really changing the perspective about, I'm not stuck to, I'm feeling negative, so I'm going to be negative. No, you can change that to, I'm in something hard, but God's got me. He's going to bring me through, and really looking at what that brings after.
You have the freedom to choose to see it differently and to respond differently. And so even though Paul couldn't control the chains that were maybe on his wrists and his ankles, he could control how he responded to it.
Yes.
And it's attitude and how we behave towards other people that change everything. And so, hostage doesn't mean that just because I'm in chains physically, doesn't mean I have to live that way.
Exactly.
I can live differently.
Exactly.
Regardless of my circumstances.
Yeah, and that's a big part of it, is really changing how you're looking at it. Just because I'm maybe physically stuck doesn't mean I have to be emotionally stuck.
Yeah.
And again, it's all perspective. That perspective change can really make a big difference.
Big difference.
So with that, we're going to jump into Philippians 1. We're going to read a few verses here. Just kind of emphasize what Paul is really kind of discussing here and where he's at. So, Now, I want you to know, brothers and sisters, that what is happening to me has actually served to advance the gospel. As a result, it has become clear throughout the whole palace guard and to everyone else that I am in chains for Christ. And because of my chains, most of the brothers and sisters have become confident in the Lord and dare all the more to proclaim the gospel without fear.
Wow.
Man, I like that part where this has happened to me has actually served to advance the gospel.
Yeah.
That actually, he knows this is for a reason. There's a purpose, and he has that purpose to really advance the gospel. And
and imagine saying, like, I'm in chains for Christ.
yeah,
Like, who would ever say that? Like, the reason why I'm in this awful circumstance is for Christ. Is his perspective, though.
Yep.
Like, God can use this, even though I don't want to be here, and this is an awful circumstance. God is going to use this and bring something really good out of it. And he's even seeing some of that already, which I think is amazing. Like, already people are responding and sharing the gospel more and being more bold because I'm in chains.
exactly.
So, what does that look like for you and for me? And I guess that's what we want to talk about. What does it mean for us to look at it like being in chains for Christ, being in this terrible circumstance for Jesus, and how might he use it?
Yeah, it's hard to believe because that could have easily shifted into a very different mindset of I'm stuck here. Why you put me here? Why there's a lot of those that really could change this whole part of Philippians in a completely opposite direction by taking a different perspective on what God is doing. So, as we, of course, unpack this a little further, we're going to start with, I think, kind of a pretty interesting question. What is your favorite hostage movie or story, and why?
It's good. We like this idea of being a hostage and getting free. And so the one that came to mind for me immediately was Civil War. The Marvel Captain America movie, where it actually kind of begins with all these guys taken hostage on a boat, and Captain America and the crew are going to come and free them. And what really stands out for me is not the rescue part, which is kind of fun to watch, but one of the guys who's been taken hostage is like so confident he's going to be rescued that he's like, he's not worried, he's not concerned. They're like, would you want to die? And he's like, yeah, whatever. Because he knows that they're going to get him out of there. He has that confidence. And I love that. To have that much confidence that I'm going to be pulled out of this, that I can, in this situation, be like, what can I do here? What would be good? Because I'm not worried. I'm not scared about it. So I love that.
Oh, man. I'm going to take it back a little bit further. Some of you may or may not know this movie, but the movie Speed. Early version with Keanu Reeves and
Sandra Bullock.
Sandra Bullock, yes. Very much younger at that point than they are, of course, now. But I same kind of idea. You've got people who got taken hostage on a bus. They're scared, they're nervous, they're afraid. And then you have, of course, the hero. You've got Keanu Reeves as he comes in and he assures the people they're going to get off, that they're going to get out of this, that things are going to be okay. And you're just seeing that confidence, and then you see the hostages kind of relax a little bit, and then they're willing to help because they believe that
they're not paralyzed with fear.
Paralyzed with fear because they've got this guy who believes that he and knows he's going to save them. And so, again, these hostage movies I think are all somewhat similar, where you have that one hero that has the confidence and people have the confidence in them to get them out of those situations. Both, of course, excellent movies. I think really kind of explains the hostage to the hero.
Yeah, well, it kind of brings those 2 points in that we're looking at, which is one, are you going to be afraid? And Paul talks about that, and we're going to deal with that. But then the other part then, while you're in the situation, do you complain, or is there something good that can come out of it? And usually there's some kind of transformation, right?
There is, yes.
It takes place, especially for the hero. Like, but even for the hostages,
Yeah. So let us know, guys, what that might be for you. Maybe you have a favorite hostage movie, or maybe you haven't really watched any.
Yeah.
But let us know.
TV show, something.
Yeah, maybe even TV show. Yeah. Let us know. We'd, of course, love to hear from you guys. So we're actually, you know what? We're going to read that verse again in Philippians 1:12 to 16.
Okay.
And we're just going to reread that. But while I read that, just kind of a cue for you guys to kind of start thinking about that verse specifically. What might have surprised you about what surprises you about what Paul wrote in this passage, and maybe what challenges you in this passage? So we'll read this again. Now I want you to know, brothers and sisters, that what has happened to me has actually served to advance the gospel. As a result, it has become clear throughout the whole palace guard and everyone else that I am in chains for Christ. And because of my chains, most of the brothers and sisters have become confident in the Lord and dare all the more to proclaim the gospel without fear. Man, that's such a good one.
It is. So we're looking for what surprises us about that?
Yeah, maybe there's something that surprised you about what he wrote.
Yeah, when I think about myself and I try and put myself in that situation, if I'm in prison, I'm going to be on trial for my life, and I'm literally chained to other guards 24/7. I'm not looking for the positive. I'd like to look for the positive, but I'm probably not.
Yep.
So the fact that Paul is like, there's a purpose to me being in chains, it's all good, from that perspective, just blows me away. That he could think that way. Because I know when I get through or get into difficult circumstances in my life, often I'm like complaining and I'm not happy. Like, why is this happening to me? And it's not what Paul does. And you would think if anyone could complain about a situation, it's Paul, right? And what's going on?
For sure.
Like, this is not a good place to be. But yeah, he's got a positive perspective on it. And rather than get negative, which I find really challenging.
It surprised me that he's like, yes, I am in chains for Christ.
Yeah.
And that people know that he's, that the palace guard and everyone knows that he's in chains for Christ. And I don't, it just surprises me that he seems to be so positive about that, that he's in chains for Christ, that this is like a great thing. When I know, like, I'm like, that doesn't seem like a great thing to be in chains. Like, it's just, it just kind of shifts my thought process about what it really means to be pushing the gospel forward.
But that would mean that in his interactions with the guards and everyone, that he's not just saying this in a letter, he's actually saying this to the guards and he's interacting with them in that way.
Yeah.
Like if you're complaining and like not happy with the guards, they're not going to look at it as you're in chains for Christ. It's not going to move the gospel. So he's in the middle of it and he's being so positive that the guards are being influenced by that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really surprised me, just that perspective and taking that stance that that this is happening because God wants me to be here to do this, and this is just part of the process. Like it's
so he's treating the people who are treating him poorly really well. Which again, for me it would be challenging. I would have a hard time trying to treat them well, because most likely they probably weren't treating him very well at all. And so it would be difficult to want to treat them well. So again, surprising, but also challenging at the same time. Again, continually being just happy and positive in that situation. And you're chained to a guy all day, all night. You don't it would be challenging to stay positive through the whole thing. Like, it's Jesus talking about turning the other cheek.
Yeah.
Go the extra mile. Like, the person who's not treating you well, you're going to love them. Love your enemy. Pray for them. Yeah. And so Paul's actually putting it into practice.
He is. And we talk about that, words are only words, but you need to live it out as well. Yeah. And again, Paul's doing that. He's speaking the word, but he's living out what God is, prompting him to do. You got to live out what is here. Yeah. And so it's very impactful in how this really looks. And it certainly, again, changes that mind about how we need to look at situations that we're in, because I'm sure some of the situations that we run into are not quite like I'm in chains in a jail in a dungeon basement dark. Like, I'm sure we don't experience that, or at least we probably shouldn't experience that, but
it can feel bad though. It can be hard moments where
there can be.
I'm not happy with the way I'm being treated here or what I'm having to face, so you can kind of relate. Yeah, we run into different situations. Maybe not as much of a physical kind of thing, but certainly maybe more of an emotional stressor, or something that really can be hurting. Can certainly cause us to, again, look at things in a negative perspective.
So Pastor Steven, of course, reminded us to stop worrying about stuff God has already worked out.
Yeah.
Which, again, that's already a big thought in its own, that God's already worked this out. I like how he put it, God's working, doesn't sleep, he's working the night shift, so I'll just get some rest. I thought that was kind of funny. And he was, God's always working, so he's got the night shift so I can rest. So I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, that's good.
So what worries can you give back to God?
Wow, that is a great question. And again, it reminds me of that Civil War kind of thing where the guy's not worried, and so you behave differently if I'm not worried about it. And for me, we're in a big transition for us as a family, and so like, what does this look like financially? What does it look like for moving forward? Like, there's a few things there that it would be easy for me to pick up and really worry about. And so I keep trying to be like, no, God, I'm going to have that kind of confidence that you've got this covered. And that means I'm not thinking about it all the time. I'm not trying to make my own plans for how I'm going to get it all fixed. I turn to God, and then I do make the effort, but it's like, what's today's effort? What can I do today that God wants me to do? And then I'm going to leave the worrying about it in his hands. So I think that's the one that comes to mind for me.
Yeah, those worries, yeah. I know for me, I used to be almost like the worry wart.
Oh, really?
I would worry a lot, and actually caused a lot of anxiety, actually, in how I would even function day to day. Just worrying about a lot of stuff. And finding God in that and realizing that I don't need to sweat the stuff as much. God's got there. He's going to support me. He's going to be there to help me through those things. And I know money is always a big one. That's seems to be a very big worried area for a lot of people. And again, we had talked about this, of course, last week about the tithe and the tithe challenge and challenging God to, that we can do this and challenge God in this area. And I know for me, that was a big one, that I was able to challenge God in that and really just see the blessings that came out of that challenge, and seeing God really work through that allowed me to relieve that worry of that money. That was one thing that I don't worry about anymore. It's not something that I'm concerned about. But yeah, it can be hard. And I know, and again, we talked about it before as well. Sometimes we think, oh, we got this. We don't need God. It's just little. We can manage it. But a lot of those little things that we worry about day to day, sometimes it's just even, getting kids off to school. Don't worry, it's okay. Everybody will get there.
And it wears at you, right?
It does.
It wears at you, and then you don't interact well with other people. Your attitude changes. And so it's giving the big things and the small things, the big worries and the small ones. I've certainly found it freeing now. Of course, I haven't, worry about things. There is stuff you worry about, and it does pop up. And again, but certainly for me, I continue to work on giving all those worries, those things, back to God, because I know I can't control them or change them. So why stress it, cause myself more stress and harm when I can just give it to God and I know He's got it and I don't have to worry about it. So, So maybe I don't know what that is for you guys out there. Maybe you have some of those big worries. Maybe it's a lot of little worries. But let us know. We can be praying for you guys, whatever those worries are, and maybe that might be what you need. But definitely start giving those to God, praying to Him and allowing Him to take those things. Certainly, I found it freeing. I know maybe for you guys, I found that very freeing as well, and allowing those worries just to kind of go back to God. So, Paul, of course, saw prison as not as oppression, but an opportunity. What are some similar opportunities in your life? This is good, right? Because it's looking at something that on the face of it might be looked at as a real negative.
Oh, yeah.
And saying, okay, could there be something positive in this? And I know I like to be more positive, but I can get very negative about something and not want to see it that way. And it actually reminds me of that story from, I think it was during the concentration camps in World War II, that talked about in the one barracks that they were prisoner in, there was an outbreak of lice. And they were complaining to each other, and this one, I don't think it was, I forget who it was anyway, said, oh, what's such a blessing. And the other prisoner being like, how can this be a blessing? Like, we're living in these horrible circumstances. How could you view lice as a blessing? And she's like, I don't know, but I know that there's a blessing in this. And then later on, they discovered that actually the guards wouldn't come into their barracks because of the lice. They stayed out. And so these women were not abused like they would have been, and they were able to pray together in a way that they couldn't have. And so there was a blessing, even a thing that seemed so bad.
Yep.
And so for me, it's looking at what's really hard thing going on right now in my life, and how could God be using this? And it was a shift for me around the future and what's God got for me next. Is it I need to survive this, or is God planning something really good for me, and I need to embrace that and trust God and really step into it and see it differently? So it's not a brace myself.
Yep.
I got to get through this. It's terrible. It's no, this is an opportunity. Like God is going to do something here for me. And so I can look forward to it and actually step into it. And wow, what a difference that made in my perspective. Not that I stay there all the time, but it's there now, and I can be aware of it. I can be thinking about it. And wow, it was huge. That was just a huge moment for me when that shifted.
Yeah, I like that about the not just surviving, but trying to thrive.
Yeah.
Instead of survive, thrive. I like the idea of coming out of it and thriving on the other side of those difficult moments, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, opportunities. Man. Things can be really hard. I know for me, my family, I've talked about this, of course, before, but trying to look at the positive of having a medically complex child. I know for us and other families with these kids, it certainly makes it hard to look at a positive. It really is hard in those moments, because there doesn't seem to be a light at the end of the tunnel. There doesn't seem like there's going to be a spot where it's going to stop. And really taking the opportunity to look at the situation and say, what can we do in this moment to make it better? And for me and my family, it was a matter of just looking at it and saying, okay, can we use this journey, this hardship, to reach one person, one family in a positive way? That they would be able to see our journey and realize that, no, things do get better, but what's different for them? And that's really, for us, was our big push in trying to shift our mentality, because we really believe that we would like to reach at least one family and show them the difference of what it looks like to come through something really difficult and something really hard. And that opportunity to change the perspective and say, hey, we did this not on our own, but we did it with God, and God helped us through it. And we've had that good conversation with one family with a little guy, the same medical stuff as us, and asking us, what's the difference? What did we do different? And we said the one thing we different was we've got God on our side, and we've got a church family that supports us. That's the difference between us. And it was kind of a shock at that moment. But having that mind shift from being a negative to where they were at, where things are so hard and so difficult, to us being, no, we can continue to push through. We know God's got us. There's a blessing on the end of this. And we may not see it now, but we will. And it's going to come. We just don't know when. And taking that mindset really helped us get through all that difficult medical stuff, and really realizing that we can really rely on God and know that He's there to support us and bring us through.
And so much hope then for that family to hear, like, you can come through this stronger and even in a better place than you thought going in. And to know that somebody else has gone ahead, and what encouragement that is, and how God gives us sometimes a ministry out of our greatest struggles to be an encouragement to other people. It's been an amazing opportunity to be able to sit and talk again with different families, and just share part of our story and our journey has been excellent. And being able to show there is hope, but you've got to have the hope in the right place. And then that's the big difference, of course, is having that hope in God and not just in what's here on earth. So that was, for us, that was one of those big opportunities to really change, which would have changed our direction for sure of where we were headed. If we had gone the negative, it would have been very different than the direction we chose, and the path we would have been on would have been very different than we are now. Take those opportunities, everybody. Certainly, when you get that opportunity to take the positive or the negative, and God's got the positive, take the positive, because He's going to get you through it. He's going to get you on that other side. It has certainly been a help for us, and I know for our church family,
everybody's had these different stories of those hard things and turning that opportunity into something positive. So again, look at those opportunities instead of oppressions, because it makes a big difference.
You're not trapped.
No,
you're
you're not.
You have the freedom to choose your perspective and how you're going to respond, and that makes all the difference in the world. And that's what
it is. And it's, again, it really relates to that not being a hostage. Not to your feelings, not to your, your expectations. Like, you don't have to be hostage to these things. You have that choice.
You have a choice.
And you can choose to be better and different. So, yeah. Well, we, of course, again, excellent conversation. We've had such, of course, a good time today, everyone. Just getting to kind of dive into this message and what it looks like not to be a hostage. And but again, we've come to the end of the time here. We just seem to fly through this each and every week. But before, of course, we go, we want to thank everyone, of course, for joining us here today, online, maybe on your podcast. We just want to thank you for joining. And of course, we will be back again next week with another Talk It Over, continuing in our series of Pre-Decide with Craig. So you guys are going to want to jump back, get back into this, finish the last couple weeks here of this message series, because it is excellent, and I'm sure he's going to finish it off really well. He always does. So so thanks for joining us. We want to thank our tech team here for just being behind the scenes, making, of course, this all possible each and every week. And we want to remember, whoever finds God finds life.